DoT is back. Hey YouTube, I've been playtesting Hysilens on the Creator Experience Server, and today I'm very excited to bring you guys some early access footage. Dust off your Kafkas because DoT is actually back. Hysilens brings some insane DoT uptime and crazy damage at just E0 S1. In this video, I'll be providing a simple breakdown of what she does and giving you guys both the premium and FTP friendly showcase so you can see her performance in both scenarios. I will also be making a complete guide for Hysilens near release day, so be sure to subscribe to the channel to be notified for when that drops. Since this is going to be done on the CE server, of course, that means that things are subject to change for full release, so keep that in mind. Alright, so first up, a look at Hysilens. She's got a beautiful, ocean-oriented character design, thematic as the daughter of the sea. She's physical typing, she's also Nihility Path, of course, and she looks to be an attack scaler who benefits from EHR and speed, which is pretty stereotypical of Nihility scaling. Now, is there a lot of text in her traces? Not that much, I would say. I mean, there's a little bit, but it's not that much. So here's a core breakdown of her goods. We have her talent. So this is where all of her DoT is going to come from. Whenever an ally or herself attacks, Hysilens will inflict a random DoT of Wind Shear, Bleed, Burn, or Shock. So that's all 4 possible DoT and 1 ability. This ability will naturally try to apply one that the enemy doesn't already have, and since this applies when an ally attacks with no cooldown, just her being on the team grants you access to all of this DoT. So all you gotta do is pop onto the team, attack with your allies, and voila, DoT everywhere. Then we have her skill. This is a full AoE attack that deals damage and also debuffs enemies with vulnerability percent. There's actually no inherent DoT on this ability, but of course it does proc her own talent, so its main purpose is just to debuff enemies with vulnerability percent for 3 turns, and otherwise it's good for ult energy generation. The uses of this ability will depend on the team. Sometimes you want to spam basic attack more for SP generation, but sometimes you want to skill more for higher frequency of ults if you have SP generation from elsewhere. Then we get to our ult. This is responsible for providing a zone that debuffs enemies with minus 15% attack and minus 25% defense. Think of it like Trippy's ult. Activate it and it leaves an aura that either buffs you or debuffs enemies. Hysilens debuffs enemies and also adds her own special DoT proc whenever it's her turn on ally attacks. With her A4 trace, it also adds DoT detonation to its ability, just like Kafka's ult. Hysilens ult is full AoE, and it's pretty cheap. It only costs 110 energy, so this detonation is quite substantial and does quite a lot of damage the more DoT is on the enemies. Then we have our technique. This one leaves a cute little water ball that slowly moves forward and trancing enemies with Soul Struck. Enemies under Soul Struck won't attack you and they'll follow the ball. Attacking enemies under this debuff inflicts 2 random DoT effects on each enemy out of the possible Shear, Bleed, Burn, Shock. This is basically similar to her talent, and also this is a passive ability, so you can proc this from her and then enter battle with someone else. Then we got the basic attack. This is your standard basic attack, and it does proc her own talent, so it indirectly applies the DoT. This will be used more often if you want her to generate SP. Alright, so then we got some extra trace nodes that provide some nice quality of life stuff. First off, her A2 trace. Entering battle provides an immediate zone, just like her ulti, so you instantly get attack reduction, def reduction, and extra DoT procs. You also get +1 SP just for deploying a zone, so on battle entry, and every single time she ults, she gains +1 SP. This one's pretty damn nice and influences the flexibility of her relics a little bit. We went over the A4 trace. This is the DoT destination on her ultimate. A6 trace. This gives her up to 90% damage bonus if you reach 120% EHR. So hit 120 EHR. This also meets Kafka's buff requirement too for the attack percent. So yeah. And then her extra stat trace nodes, she gets a buttload of speed here, 14 here, and then she gets 2 nodes of EHR for 10%, 3 nodes of attack percent for 18%. So overall, I find her kit to be pretty straightforward. DoT comes from allies attacking, not even herself, and then you apply her skill at least once every 3 turns for that vulnerability percent, and then ulti is just a massive DoT damage detonation and leaves a zone for more DoT. She can be SP positive if you limit your skill usage, or SP negative if you want to spam ulti more by using skill more, so she's pretty flexible. For leveling priority, her important skillings are all kind of split between these 3 core abilities. She has def reduction and DoT damage on her ultimate, she has vulnerability percent on her skill, and she has raw DoT scaling on her talent. So I just make sure to level all 3. I would first max her ultimate and her skill though, because these have the def reduction cap and the vulnerability percent. Alright, so now let's go over the build that I'm currently running and close alternatives that you could potentially use. First up, we have the Light Cone. Signature LC has high base attack at 635, free effect hit rate, a DoT vulnerability percent, and a pseudo team-wide speed buff. Quite a lot going on with this Light Cone. and with both a DoT vulnerability and team-wide speed on 1 LC, it's quite strong. This is basically like a team boosting light cone rather than personal strength, making it very valuable to have at least one for DoT teams. Other light cones that I've looked at that are currently pretty good for her, we obviously have Black Swans. So this is kind of like the yin and the yang pairing to Hysilens' signature. This is the same EHR at 40%, but this one's more personal. Has the passive synergy of all 4 DoTs, provides a stacking attack percent and defense ignore. Both of these light cones together in the same team will be very strong, and it is a great option for Hysilens as well. Now we have other ones. We have Ciphers. This one's okay. We do have a great amount of speed, no EHR though. We do have def reduction on this, but I'm gonna warn you guys, be wary of the overkill with the defense ignore. With 4-piece Prisoner, Black Swan skill, and Black Swan's light cone, and Hysilens zone, we are potentially above 90% defense ignore. Obviously, if you don't use Black Swan's light cone on herself, she'll be less than that, but if you do use it on her, then she will be above 90% defense ignore. So in my opinion, I would prioritize something with effect hit rate to reduce stat requirements on the relics. So Xiaoqiu's looks pretty good, but the 60% base chance will mean that 120% EHR is not quite enough to guarantee it, but it's still fine. Kafka's light cone, this one's okay. I mean, this one's just damage oriented, no EHR on it. And then for the 4 stars, we have tutorial mission. So this one is 99% of the time going to be on Kafka. It's just so good on her for those 1-turn ults. Then we also have things like Eyes of Prey or Good Night Sleep Well. Both of these are very good for the 4-star options. We also have Showtime for damage percent and also attack percent, so this also looks good. Overall, I would just prioritize finding a trio of DoT stats like attack, speed, and EHR for whatever you can get on the light cones. And then for relics, we're going best in slot with 4-piece Prisoner. The defense ignore on 4-piece is very valuable to help us reach near 100% defense ignore. Revelry is going to be the 2-piece planner best in slot, with a close second being Glamoths. Glamoths is basically very similar. It just has damage percent at a slightly less value than instead of DoT damage. Main stats for her are going to be pretty flexible. She can basically run any combination of EHR, speed, attack, or ERR, depending on your team, plus specific goals and conditions of content. The only stat requirement for her is 120% EHR for that A6 trace, and 160 plus speed if you're running Glamoths. If you have her signature light cone somewhere in the team, doesn't have to be on herself, you basically get also a free Ruan Mei talent for 10% speed, dropping her minimum requirement to 150 for the Glamoths. So she has naturally high base speed and a lot of speed from the stat nodes, so it is possible as well to skip speed boots. Currently my recommendations: for body piece, we have EHR or attack percent. For boots, we have attack or speed. For orb, we have attack over damage, and I'll explain that in a second. And then we have attack or ER rope. Every single piece of her kit has 2 potential options depending on the situation. For the body piece, I'm choosing to run EHR to reach 120 plus easier and focus speed attack on substats. For the boots, I'm running attack priority since with just speed substats, 150 plus should be doable. Faster the better though, but still if you can get 150 or 160 from just substats, I would prioritize attack percent since most of her DoT will be applied by ally attacks. For the orb, I do prefer attack over damage orb because her DoT inflicts all 4 sources of DoT, which is calculated as wind, fire, lightning, and fizz damage. Attack orb will benefit all of them. Fizz orb will only benefit one, which is bleed. That being said, if you don't have an attack orb, fizz is still the best to use since most of her DoT will be bleed from her ult zone's extra ticks combined with her talents, random applications. For the rope, I first opted for attack, but I really do like the feel of ERR, especially since she has so many attack sources, from main stats to Kafka's buff to team buffs and other external sources. With a low cost of 110 energy, ERR allows you to cycle her ult guaranteed in 3 turns, potentially in 2 turns, without sacrificing too much attack, but also improving her detonation and granting +1 SP from her passive more frequently. However, this is conditional. If the content you do needs a little bit more damage, but it doesn't need that extra ult or 2, then run attack percent. Alright, quick stat check. So with the creator server relics, mine's looking pretty solid. She has 160 speed before the sick boost, so 170 effective, 3.3k attack before Kafka, 119 ERR, and 127 effective rate. Alright, now a brief glance at her E1 and E2 for front-loaded investment before I run through some demos that I've prepared. E1, a 1.16 final damage multiplier to all DoT from all allies. It also adds an additional random DoT with her talent. This effectively makes her talent apply a double the DoT since we're going from 1 application to 2 applications. This one is quite significant in my opinion. E2. While her ulti zone is active, all allies receive that A6 trace bonus, converting 120% EHR to 90% damage. Very good for Black Swan, since she already meets those EHR requirements, but it's a little bit high for Kafka. Normally, Kafka can sit comfortably at 75% to proc her own trace, but with this E2, she has wiggle room for 120. However, I would not force this for Kafka, but if you manage to have perfect relics with attack speed and EHR on every single piece, then it doesn't hurt to add a bit more effect hit rate than above 75. So pretty solid bonuses for the first two. I'm not going to cover the rest because they're not really important for this early access. They will be included in the full guide. Alright, so first up, we've got the premium team demo. Hysilens E0S1, a Kafka E0S5 tutorial mission, 4-piece Eagle plus 2-piece Lushaka. Black Swan is E0S1 with prisoner set plus revelry, and Huohuo is E0S1. This team has a lot of damage. It's a triple DoT setup. Kafka is built ultra fast and with ERR rope for 1-turn ults and max detonations. Black Swan is attack boots, so she's more damage oriented. She's still going to be about 140 speed with Hysilens light cone boost, but overall we're just looking to boost her Arcana damage as much as possible, because for the most part, when her talent's up, she doesn't need to actually use her own turn. Black Swan and Huohuo are aiming to be SP generators when they go, with Black Swan applying her skill for her Death Shred every couple turns. Hysilens will use her skill whenever she can for more ult generation, but that is completely optional. This team, we have 3 passives and 1 active ability entering with Kafka. Alright, so first setting everyone's passive up, Huohuo, Black Swan into Hysilens, entering with Kafka's E, or Kafka's technique. Alright, so we're going to watch for a Kafka's talent passive procs here. So you're going to notice I'm going to be doing a little bit of stuff here. So let's first explain initially the rotation. We're going to be E with Kafka. When she enters her turn, she's going to recover one of her passive procs. But unfortunately, we have no one here who is faster than Kafka, because again, I'm running ultra fast speed Kafka. So she's going to use E here. She's going to hold her ultimate until Hysilens go. Hysilens is going to apply her E for that vulnerability percent, proc one of Kafka's talent, and then we're going to Kafka ult. After that, Hysilens is on ERR rope, so she's going to be able to get her ult here, and then we're going to wait for Black Swan's E for her Death Shred, and then Hysilens ult. We're just maximizing damage here by making sure that we apply all those debuffs, and then we can go all in. Alright, so first her E, then Huohuo is going to heal for the attack buff. Get all 3 of my DoT users getting that boost. Hysilens is going to apply her vulnerability percent here. We're going to hold that ultimate. We're going to go immediately into Kafka's ultimate. She did proc her talent there. Ultimate is going to refresh 1 point of her talent here, so that's why we waited 1 turn. Then Black Swan can go E here for that Death Shred. Then Hysilens can ult after Kafka's talent procs 1 more time. Alright, now as you guys can see, and this is how fast my Kafka is. She's literally about to go. Now that everyone's ult is used, we can run proc Huohuo's ult. Then Black Swan's ult when all of them are alive for that Epiphany bonus. Alright, now the ads are going to go, and Kafka is going to E into Q for a maximum damage. So this is the 1-turn ult Kafka I was talking about. With E into Q, we get maximum damage, and also we get 2 passive talent procs back up. And also, we get max value out of Eagle. We can never ult with Kafka instantly because it'll waste the Eagle bonus. So she has to do her turn first, even if she already has energy ready. Alright, sounds pretty standard. Huohuo's gonna SP generate here. This is going to be a very easy 0 cycle on this wave. We just want to generate SP for the next wave. Alright, so that one's dead. Hysilens is probably going to basic here. We do want SP generation. Alright, so we have 3 skill points. A little bit less than I would like, but it's fine. So this is basically the same stuff. Kafka here, okay, so this is actually a very nuanced point. Kafka here, I'm going to basic attack and not skill. And the reason why is because this is the start of the new wave. We have very little DoT going. And if we do press E here, we're going to be -1 skill point. I do have both Hysilens E, Black Swan's E, and possibly even Huohuo E that I want to refresh. So for this part, I am going to basic here just to have extra skill points. I'm still going to ultimate though for that Eagle bonus. Alright, so this is just me thinking a little bit. We do basic here into ultimate. So notice that Eagle bonus is just so good. Eagle plus Lushaka means that we are getting ult cycling so fast here. So we're gonna reapply Huohuo's passive up. We're gonna hold her ultimate then. We don't need to use it right away. We need all these skill points. I'm gonna Hysilens ulti right here, and the reason why is because I want her E to refunnel her energy for another one before the cycle ends. So this is why we're running ERR rope. It would not be possible if I was running attack rope. But this is very nuanced. Each scenario is gonna be different, right? So now we can E here, apply the vulnerability percent. Her ultimate also refunds 1 SP, which is really nice. You can see here, we're very close to being able to 2-turn ult here. So now that she got hit, she should be guaranteed to E into ult before the cycle's over. Black Swan's gonna apply her debuff here and then apply Epiphany. Oh, we are just short on energies. A little unlucky. And then we always EQ here for maximum damage. We're gonna aim for Jeopard. Aim for the main blast to be on Jeopard. So we get, because Jeopard's HP is way tankier. Alright, so I waited a little bit here to ultimate on when these ads spawned. Just free extra damage on them. There's literally no waste. If I ulted a little bit earlier, I would have to wait for them to spawn, which then we would lose a little bit of damage. And I do want their explosion because it is extra damage. Alright, so with those ads attacking, we do get Black Swan's ultimate that we want to pop right away. Alright, there we go. Ho can basic here. We do have one more Kafka talent proc. We want to basic on Jeopard here. Alright, the talent's going to explode a little bit of damage, which is really nice. Now we can E into Q here. We already used both of Kafka's talent procs, so we definitely want to E here. It's just a little bit of extra damage. Alright, into the ultimate. We're checking the stats here. We got about 5.4k attack with about 90% damage bonus. The enemies have how much Arcana? 11 Arcana over there, all the debuffs. Jeopard has 25 Arcana, which is pretty nice. And the ads have probably a very little bit amount of Arcana, because they just spawned. Alright, and then this ultimate is a 4 enemy, 1.2 million damage. Jeopard at 33%, which is really nice, and Kafka is yet to go. So it's pretty close, right? It's pretty close. With an E and a Q and a talent proc on Kafka, we should be able to do 30% on Jeopard. Let's see it right here. E does about 9%. Ultimate does 13%. And then a Black Swan just needs to press E here for Kafka's talent. And we get another detonation, and there it is. 0 cycle. So, very nice. So yeah, that is a 0 cycle clear with the premium team. As you guys can see, there's a little bit of nuance when we want to rotate all of the abilities. Kafka's talent procs, we want to maximize them because each one of them is a small mini DoT explosion, which we really like. Waiting for Hysilens ult, we have as much DoT as possible with the enemies before the enemies go is optimal because we get maximum DoT off that way. And then for Kafka's EQ cycle, we always want to Q afterwards to get Eagle proc. And you guys can see I was EQing almost every single turn with her. With speed boots, ERR, Lushaka, she has a bunch of ER. With both of her talent procs, she's also getting energy off of those basics. Overall, that allows us to ult every single turn, which is just a lot of damage, right? So the nuance of that team, by the way, is that a lot of our abilities are AoE. Now, if we're fighting something like MOC, the enemies that we want to target are probably going to be the main boss enemy, but you can't guarantee that. When Kafka's talent procs, as you guys probably noticed, right? Every single time she has these talent procs, I want them all on Jeopard, because Jeopard is the tankiest enemy, but I can't guarantee it sometimes. Like, for example, if I'm on Hysilens or I'm on Black Swan, if they don't have their debuffs on, I want to apply them. Like, optimally, I'd be basicing Jeopard, so I can guarantee Kafka's talent proc, but sometimes I need to apply those debuffs, right? Both Hysilens skill and Black Swan skill are blast/AoE, so I cannot guarantee. It's just RNG. If I happen to have all of the procs on Jeopard, the run is a little bit faster, and then we don't have to scrape it by the barrel. But yeah, that's premium team. 0 cycle is pretty efficient here. Kafka is very, very, very necessary for this team to work out. She is ulting probably 2 to 3 times per cycle, which is kind of insane. Yeah. Alrighty, next one, we're on the F2P friendly comp. So I say F2P friendly, but you really cannot remove Kafka. She's so necessary for DoT explosions. Like, the damage fall-off is quite incredible if you don't have her. Kafka is still E0 S5 tutorial mission with Lushaka and Eagle for maximum ult uptime. Hysilens is still E0 S1, Ruan Mei is E0 S1, and Gallagher is E6 with S5 quid pro quo. So this is this pretty standard F2P oriented comp. Ruan Mei is free, so I would consider her F2P friendly. And then Gallagher is really just like de facto 4-star sustain that everyone should be investing in. So yeah, this is going to be our team here. Our goal obviously is 0 cycle, but we're not going to make it to 0 cycle, but you'll see how close we get. It's a little unfortunate, but this team is fairly solid. All right, so in this team, I only have 2 passives. Ruan Mei and Hysilens are our passives. Gallagher's inactive, so we have to skip that and just go straight for Kafka. see that little water ball moving forward, and then Kafka goes in. All right, so in this setup, Ruanmei, okay, so one thing I need to explain here. We're going fast as possible. I'm doing fast Ruanmei because her basics are SP generation for this team. Since we do not have triple DoT, we have only double DoT, I actually want Hysilens to skill as much as possible so that she can ult as much as possible. As you guys know, Hysilens' ult is a 150% DoT detonation, which is slightly higher than Kafka's ult, so it's actually the strongest nuke, but Hysilens does not have DoT detonation on every single ability like Kafka does. So Hysilens' ultimate is a really nice final big nuke damage. Kafka is our consistent DoT exploder. All right, so we're gonna basic here and ultimate right away. Get that set up. All right, sending with Kafka here. As always, we're gonna wait. We don't want to waste those talent procs. Hysilens is gonna E here. Into Kafka, this is this very standard rotation here. And then Hysilens' ultimate, I'm gonna wait until Gallagher finishes his rotation. So we noticed that the mob on the left is 3 out of 5, and I kind of wanted to summon its ads. So if I get it to 5 out of 5, it'll actually advance forward, which is kind of nice. So what I do here is I basic the left one. I force it to summon its ads, and then I wait until the ads are summoned. Actually, I don't. I forget about this. I actually break it here, so I don't. So I just send Hysilens' ult. But my intention, if I did not break it, was I could ultimate with Hysilens after you summon the ads for free AoE damage. So 600k there is pretty good considering we are double DoT without the insane buffs. Kafka is going to EQ like standard here. I don't think she can though, unfortunately. We're gonna have to wait for these ads. With these ads proccing right here, I'm gonna send Kafka's ultimate instantly here. So this means we get eagle value. Alright, so DoT detonation damage is 430k. Ruanmei's ultimate, this word I'm just gonna use on cooldown. I'm off cooldown. No reason not to, considering that she's super fast. I don't want her buffs to expire. Hysilens here, I think I want to E. I have 4 skill points, it's very good. I want to get her second ultimate as soon as possible. This should be dying to our DoT here, which is very nice. Now we're just going to focus on skill point generation. So you guys, as you guys can see, 0 cycle wave 1 is very, very good. All right, so 0 cycle wave 1, pretty close here. I kind of decide here. So what did I choose to do here? I think I chose the basic attack, right? Let me go back just a little bit. Yeah, I chose the basic attack here. So this is kind of a soft spot, right? In these type of runs, I think that skilling here would be fine because I have infinite number of skill points. I think I'm coming off of my muscle memory from my previous premium run where I always basic because I'm trying to set up everyone. But Ruanmei already has her E at 3 stacks here. So I just need a basic with Ruanmei. And Gallagher doesn't need to heal. He's just going to basic into ult. So this I should have E'd here for a little bit more damage 100 apart. It's okay. We're going to use her turn and her ultimate for 2 extra talent procs here. And then next up, Ruanmei is going to basic to get those talent procs going. This is unfortunately going to be a waste of skill points. Like I said, I made a mistake there, but it's totally fine. Unfortunately, I don't think it's going to make a difference for a 0 cycle on this because Japard's HP I think is still too high. But just proof of concept, I should have E'd there with Kafka. So now we go for Hysilens. After everything is set up, this will proc Kafka's talent here. I'm using the ultimate before the E so I can regenerate energy faster and get 1 more ultimate. I'm gonna try to get 1 more ultimate before the cycle ends. So Gallagher is always basic, ult basic. I'm not gonna ever basic. I'm not gonna ever ultimate early with Gallagher because it just literally wastes a turn. Because it's an action advance, it's not a free turn. So if it's already his turn and you ultimate right away, then you're cooked. All right, so we're basicing here, which is fine. 4 skill points is very good. Kafka's gonna EQ. This is pretty standard. Also want to make sure, this was a little soft mistake there. I should have waited for Kafka's ult. Again, there's a lot of like small nuance things you can do here. Should have waited for the mob to summon its ads and then ult with Kafka. Would have been a little bit of extra damage on those ads. All right, so I'm just gonna Ruanmei ultimate here. This will guarantee it's up for the rest of the rotation. All right, so you guys can see Hysilens is proper here. I'm gonna use my E, or no, I'm gonna use my basic because Kafka has talent procs. Hysilens is for sure gonna E here, and then we're gonna ultimate right away. All right, so This is going to be basically max damage for this particular wave. For the F2P comp, we're dealing 1 million damage, which is still very, very good. And you guys can notice I only have 2 abilities left. I am going to be able to EQ with Kafka. That's all I can do. So you'll notice Japar's HP is 45% here. I'm going to do the E-Blast on Japar because everyone else will die guaranteed to my ultimate. And we'll see where the HP ends up. So all the ads are dead. This is a 1.2 million Kafka detonation, by the way. And remember, she's full speed here. So insane amount of damage. And all of that DoT, he's about at 10%. So we were pretty close to a 0 cycle. But again, we needed the Memory of Chaos Blessing to do an additional like 20% damage there. So even if I Kafka Eid right away, it's still a little bit shy. I would need to probably do a little bit of finessing, maybe more skill points in the beginning, maybe more damage. I'm not really sure. But I do think that was pretty good. All right, so closing thoughts. What do I think about Hysilens? In my opinion, she is definitely bringing back DoT, but Kafka is a requirement. Only E0 Kafka is necessary, and with the new buffs, Tutorial Mission S5 is her most valuable light cone for the energy refund to get her 1-turn ults. If you have the duo of Hysilens and Kafka, you're basically set. The last 2 slots are mostly on the flexible side, with Black Swan being the obvious premium choice, and Ruan Mei being a really solid F2P alternative. Of course, you can run Sustain or you can run Sustainless as well. With the demonstrations, I think that the more budget-friendly comp with Ruan Mei and Gallagher still performs pretty damn well, considering we were just shy of reaching a 0 cycle. In general, in my opinion, the weakness of DoT comps is still with single target damage. Hysilens' talent is able to focus fire a bunch of DoT on single enemies, and Kafka is able to constantly proc instant DoT, but beefy enemies are still beefy. In the F2P comp, we can kill all the ads and elite mobs with relative ease, but the main bosses will still pose an HP wall that are slowly broken down with premium characters. Overall though, I am a huge fan of Hysilens. Kafka is our quote-unquote Harmony Chief of Staff, and DoT is on the menu once again. I'll be dropping a complete guide near her release, so remember to hit subscribe if you aren't already, and let me know in the comments what you personally think of Hysilens. Thank you guys for watching, and we'll see you guys on the next video. Take care.